All right, so I'm in the 500e. I'm going to go for a drive in a sec, but there's been a lot of things that have happened. So first of all, on BringATrailer, what did I buy the car for? I did bid on BringATrailer, I think it was 26,000 something, and I'll show the picture up here on the screen of me bidding, and it actually, I didn't win the bid. And I, went on to actually negotiate. So BringATrailer do this. They put you in touch with the listing seller, and they actually allow you to negotiate off BringATrailer, and you don't pay BringATrailer any fees. So let me repeat that. If you bid on BringATrailer and the bid is not successful, meaning it doesn't hit reserve, then BringATrailer just connect you with this seller and you negotiate off of BringATrailer. Now with that, you don't get any protection from BringATrailer in terms of the purchase. You're doing it independently on your own with no verification. Having never bought off BringATrailer, I'm not sure that was the most comfortable thing for me. 90% it went okay, but there's 10% I would say buyer beware on BringATrailer. So I bought the car. I did bid up to 26,600 or something like that, and I didn't win. I got in touch with the seller, I'm not going to name them, and they've done a fantastic job of putting videos up and YouTube videos up about the car, and the way they represented the car, it was pretty compelling to buy the car. Particularly this car, even though it's done 140,000 miles, 50,000 miles ago, a brand new engine was put in by Mercedes-Benz in Germany because the car was driven out of the service bay without the sump nut being put in, the oil drained out and seized the engine. So this car's got a 50,000 mile engine in it, which is one of the reasons I bought the car. All the engine wiring harness, which is a common problem, all's been replaced, and it generally seemed in good order. So let's just talk about the condition of the car, number one, in terms of what condition was it in and what condition did I receive the car in. Now, I have actually got, because I've installed a reversing camera, I'm just going to use that because I'm reversing out the driveway. That is one of the most helpful things on this car, reversing camera. Okay, so the first thing was, the BringATrailer description did talk about a couple of things like, chips and scratches around the vehicle, which were as per described. But then, there was my gear lever, or the gear lever, was shown as being loose linkage, but not something that the seller was claiming to have been anything particularly crazy to actually deal with. So, got here, saw the gear linkage was sort of, loose, and I accepted that. But then when the car actually arrived, here's the interesting thing. The car actually, I bought it in September, I think, or I paid for it by early September. It didn't arrive here in the US until middle of October. So it probably took 3 or 4 weeks for the transport company that I had to arrange, and I arranged my own transport company. And bit of going backwards and forwards. I kept testing, the whole, testing of how do I actually transfer monies and all that type of stuff. And I went through all that. So I've got some advice. Anybody who's transferring money out of the country for the first time, send me a DM. I'll give you some advice and tips on what to do to make sure your money doesn't get lost. And I'd picked up some advice and I'd followed that. Anyway, so the car arrived, and I was actually not here. I was in New York at the time. So my wife and my son, took delivery of the car, and there's a video here. I put a video up showing the car being delivered, and here it is in the corner. So when I got the car back, like I said, I was New York, and when I got back home and I took the car for the drive, and straight away there was a misfire in the car, and it was running like a dog. I got hold of this seller and said, hey, what's going on? The car's misfiring, and seller said, well, it was okay when it left here. And that's sort of the theme of what happened there on. Anyway, the misfire went away a little bit after a while, and I thought, okay, that's not too bad. I can, that sort of makes sense. Maybe it was damp or something, but the gear linkage was definitely loose. What I did find though is when I went for a drive, it wasn't just loose gear linkage, but the gear changes were, in my eyes, violently changing gears in a jerky manner. I think, in my normal driving operation, it was clear that the actual gear, there was something wrong with the gearbox. You could say it was aged, or it was, worn out or something like that. I don't know, but it was not what I was expecting, and it certainly wasn't declared. So that, before I did anything, I really wanted to get sorted out. Now, one of the things that I was trying to explore at the time was, how do I actually, get this car officially certificated, for emissions and EPA testing with CARB compliance. And I had to send it down to Los Angeles, and I live in the North Bay in Northern California. It's about 600 miles from here, to G&K Autos, who are the only place in the whole of the USA, and the whole of California, that is authorized to do the compliance modifications and testing. Anyway, when I spoke to them, they said make sure your car's in good running order, because when it goes in the dyno testing and etc., it cannot break down, otherwise they're going to have to fix it and they'll charge their labor rates. So I actually sent the car into a place local to me, Craig at German Motors, who's a specialist in German cars. He's an ex-Mercedes tech who's got his own business in my local area, German Motors, and he just actually happens to have come from the era of this particular vehicle. So he knows everything about this car, and he's got one or two of these himself. So I sent it in to him and said, look, Craig, can you go over this car? When we got into it, I probably ended up spending more significant amount of money on this car repairing it than I ever expected to. So I ended up rebuilding the transmission or the gearbox, have it taken out, sent away and rebuilt, and that cost me around $4,000. I had the gear linkage, the loose gear linkage done. I then had to buy new heat protectors and mats, shields for the gearbox. I had to have the rear brakes fixed because the rear parking brake springs were broken. This is all as it came from off BringATrailer, and it was rubbing up against the wheels as it's moving. As we took the transmission out, the prop shaft was all seized up. It needs to move up and down its splines. It was not. That took a lot of labor to free up. We were a bit worried that wasn't going to free up, and trying to get hold of a prop shaft would have been a problem. But Craig did a great job getting that sorted out. So I had new rear shoes on. The front discs and the rear disc and pads probably will need changing, but didn't need doing any work, as per said on BringATrailer. What else? Oh yeah. So the handbrake was done, or the parking brake was done, and then the misfiring. Turned out that the distributor cap was completely corroded, and that had to be replaced. So I ended up replacing that with the plugs and leads and blah blah blah, with some oil. And then what else did I have to do? Oh, so all that put together, the mechanical work cost me about $7,000. Now, when I had bid on BringATrailer, I had bid like $26,000. I ended up agreeing $30,000 to actually buy the car, which I was okay with. So you then add the extra $7,000 for all these maintenance items, and the car now stands me at $37,000. The thing about that though is, those maintenance items, doesn't matter where you get the car from, whether it's a US spec car or a European spec car, I guess the car was going to need it anyway. It's just that it wasn't as honest a description, or let me put it a different way, it wasn't as thorough a description as I was expecting, given all the details that was on BringATrailer. So the first thing I'm going to advise you all, if you buy a car off BringATrailer, make it conditional on a pre-delivery inspection, so you get somebody independent, especially in a car you're spending 20, 30,000 above in dollars, get $400 or $500, even $1,000 spent on get somebody to go and give you an independent inspection of what's wrong, because you just don't know. And if it's on BringATrailer, ask if you can get the inspection done before the auction ends. And if they say no, I'd be suspicious. Anyway, that's my piece of advice there. So it's cost me about $7,000. Now here's where it gets interesting. You now start to think about, well, I've got it here. It's a really good car. And in terms of California cars, one of the things that this car's in great condition for is actually the interior. Now, coming to the interior, the leather's still soft, etc. But on the center console, one of the things that was in the original advert, and here's a picture of it showing up here, there was a 1990s telephone bracket on the side. When the BringATrailer seller described it, they described it as being such a nice piece, a nice addition, they didn't want to remove it. Here's the reality. I didn't want that wart of a thing on the side of my console, but when I tried to take it off, somebody had epoxy resined it in and it ripped the console to pieces. So I was on the hunt for a new center console. Luckily I found one in Germany for $83 plus shipping, which cost me $50, but still I found a perfect one, and now it's all perfect and good. So, not too bad, but it took me a bit of work to get that sorted. I then did put AppleCarPlay in, so I got a particular unit which doesn't need any modification. Some people love it, some people don't, but I definitely wanted AppleCarPlay, and I put the AMG steering wheel on myself. Putting those two things aside, so you got $37,000 for the car, and then I had to bring the car into the US of A from Canada. The transportation cost was about $2,400 to go and pick it up from Alberta and bring it to myself. Import duties were about 800-ish, 900. So total transport, import duties and fees, etc., crossing the border, brokerage fees, there was about $4,000-ish there. So now it's standing to me about $41,000. That's where now things are getting expensive. Now, eliminate the $7,000 of maintenance work. It's now $30,000 plus $4,000, $34,000. Okay, that seems okay. The next is where it really becomes expensive. I then wanted to register it in California. I tried to find different ways to do it without going through the official route, and I was struggling. And I didn't want this car to be hanging out there forever. So the next step I had to take was actually get the car EPA certified, and to do that I had to send it to California to G&K Motors, and they would do a whole bunch of tests, do any modifications to the vehicle, and get it certified and get it smog tested so I can get registered in California. I did all that work, but that cost me $10,000. So all the testing and everything, they replaced the catalytic converters. I don't know why, because I'd tested them before they went and they were perfectly fine in terms of the emissions. But for the testing purposes, they did change the two cats. I have two cats on this. So about $2,000 of that $10,000 was the cats. The rest of it was, I don't know, they're making money, and I had to send it down there, and it had to wait in the queue, and it took almost 3 months to actually, get done. Part of that 3 months was just waiting in the queue. You can't make an appointment, you just have to send your car there, and so many cars coming from outside of the USA, from Japan, from Europe, you just wait in the queue. Anyway, $10,000. So now it's standing me, including the maintenance, $47,000. Now I go to the actual DMV to get it registered, and I have to pay my tax on the vehicle for California, which is around about 10%, and the registration fees, which turned out to be $3,300 or $3,800. So it now stands me at $52,000. Ta-da! All done, registered, $52,000, just under $53,000. This car stands me at. Well, was it worth it? I don't know is the answer to that question. Was it worth it? I love this car, and in the time it's taken, so it took me, so here's a recap of the time. I bought the car in September, August. It took August, September 23. It was October until I got it here because we had to wait for availability of the transportation company. When it got here, I thought I was waiting for customs documents before I could send it down to G&K Motors to get the EPA testing. So from October through to December, lo and behold, what I didn't realize, I actually had the documents in hand, and I was waiting because I was told after the car gets through the port and the fees are paid, which they had been done, it takes up to 6 to 12 weeks for the importation documents to arrive. What I didn't realize, my driver hadn't told me who brought the car, the documents actually, they did it there and then, the documents came through. So this could have taken a little bit short. So I lost a bit of time because I didn't realize I had the import documents already done and stamped and in. Come January the 6th, I managed to get the car booked on a trailer into G&K Auto, and it was there like on January the 6th. From January the 6th all the way through to January 6th, February, March, it took that long to get the EPA testing done. In March, I got the car back from Los Angeles, and I went and did the registration. March, yeah. So end of March, I went in and went to get the VIN verified, and the DMV couldn't verify the VIN. They said there was no federal label on it, even though the EPA testing company had put the emissions label on. There was no federal certification label. I then had to go and book an appointment, which was another 2 weeks out, with the California Highway Patrol. They actually then verified the VIN, came back, and once the VIN was verified, the DMV were able to register the vehicle under a temporary operating permit, and I paid all the fees, got the vehicle registered under a temporary operating permit. They gave me a 2-month operating permit, which lasted till the end of May. I waited and waited and waited, so I put all the paperwork in. My local office sent it off to Sacramento. Within about 6 weeks, I got a letter from the DMV querying that they hadn't had the CHP VIN verification, which wasn't true. I had to go back into the local office, through the local office, submit all the paperwork, and by that time, it was like middle of May. End of May came, my temporary operating permit had expired, so I went back in at the beginning of June to actually get a renewed temporary operating permit, and they only issued it me for 1 month. And I says, why only 1 month? He says, oh, you should get your stuff through, you should hear from DMV Sacramento within June. Anyway, didn't think anything of it. Came home, put the new operating permit on, like I showed you before, and within days, the plates arrived through the door. And that was my journey. So from actually going in with my paperwork to the DMV office and getting my plates, because all my paperwork was correct, it only took 2 months. It took about 2, maybe 3 months. So I think from January through to early March, maybe 8 weeks to get the EPA testing. So if you can get a car landed in the US from actually getting EPA testing, if you decide to do that and not go and register it in another state, you could probably get your car EPA tested, registered within a 4-month period. I think that's the shortest period. And that's it. So that was my journey on this E500E or 500E it's a 1991 500E. They never had them in the USA in 1991. The emissions upgrades did not create any loss of power, because it's known fact that the European cars have more power than the US spec vehicles because of the whole emissions thing. So no loss of power. I've retained the European specification. I've got a European specified car. It's got its citizenship, and I just put the plates on today. I'm very, very stoked. Stands me at close to $53,000. It's a keeper. You know, these things are going up in value in the future. I mean, this will be a great car. I've already done other work to it. I've replaced the front window screen because it was pepper dashed with, it was like peppered with like micro chips. Just put a brand new original equipment on the front of the screen. I'm waiting for a brand new original equipment rear screen to turn up, and I'm slowly just putting it back to normal. I've had the seat pads repaired, so had the seats out and an upholstery repair. The seat pads, they're all working great, and it runs fantastic. The next project is actually the Porsche brake upgrade, which I mentioned before. We're actually going to take all the calipers and put Porsche 996 calipers all around, and I bought everything for that. I was going to put another 2 or 3 grand on it, but this is going to be my car until I don't know when. Anyway, this is Mickey. Mr. India. If you've got any questions about the whole process, whether it's the emissions or whether it's the actual importation, I know it all. You know, official routes. I don't know any shortcuts. I don't know anybody who's got a shortcut. So don't ask me about shortcuts. Please don't cuss me for having paid all this money. I've done it the right way. I feel safe driving it around, and I'm really cool with that. Mickey, Mr. India, signing out. Just DM me, put something in the comments. I'll answer all the questions. It's been a great journey. Thank you for listening. Speak to you soon. Bye.